Welcome to the Seven Figure Leaders podcast. This podcast was created to celebrate the success stories of seven-figure business owners, giving them a platform to share their insights and lessons learned in order to inspire other business owners. As well as that, it's an opportunity to build new connections. So if you're a seven-figure business owner or someone who works with seven-figure business owners and you're looking for introductions to potential stakeholders, strategic partners and clients, I'd love to hear from you or have you on as a guest and see if I can help make those connections for you. Just go to synergycfosolutions.co. That's synergycfosolutions.co and click podcast. And there you'll find the link to apply. Today we've got Matt Remuzzi, founder and managing director of CapForge. Welcome, Matt.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Pleasure to have you. So best place to start, why don't you give us a bit of a background into CapForge?
Yeah, so it was something I started. It's actually been 24 years since I started it. I got laid off from a venture-backed firm on a Friday. They hired me back as a contractor on Monday to help with some things that hadn't been finished and things, and then laid off for good about a month later after that. And what I had been doing was working with small business owners, helping them with financial forecasting and some business planning things. And I thought, maybe this is finally the time where I can try going out on my own. There's still these customers out there. I can provide the service and I can charge a lot less than the firm I was working for that had to make, an hourly margin on top of what made sense to pay me. And so that October of 2000, I started out on my own. And here, 24 years later, I have yet to still get, go back and get a real job. And along the way, I bought some businesses. I started some businesses. I worked as a business broker for a number of years, helping business owners sell their businesses. And that was really the catalyst for where I am today, because what would happen is I'd go talk to these business owners and they'd say, yes, I'm interested in selling. How much can I get for my business? And I'd say, well, let's take a look at your financials and we can figure out a valuation. And they go, oh yeah, the financials, well, they're kind of a mess, or they're 6 months behind, or my mom is my bookkeeper and she doesn't really know what she's doing. And so over and over again, either they wouldn't be able to sell their business, or we'd have to do a huge cleanup project, or they'd have to take a much lower price than they probably could have gotten because they didn't have a good representation of what the business was actually doing. And furthermore, of course, without good financials, they were just running at sort of seat of their pants, best guess estimates. They didn't have KPIs in place. They didn't have any metrics that they were regularly measuring in their business, or at least not formally. So I thought, maybe the opportunity here for me to get into the next phase of my business ownership is to get into small business accounting. And so that's what I did. In 2012, out of the spare bedroom, I said, okay, let's set up a small business bookkeeping firm. And I started with that. And here we are, 2024, 12 years later. We've got 80 employees across, all 4 US time zones, 1,200 clients in all 50 states. The demand was there and the need was real. So we have been growing like wildfire ever since.
Wow. So you've been through quite a lot there, and interesting the points you raised around meeting business owners who are trying to sell their business and realizing that there's quite a lot of work to do to actually make it sellable. So I guess talk to us a little bit about kind of a bit more detail on the journey you've been on. So going through that part of it in a bit more detail, that would be good.
Yeah, so I mean, just from the accounting standpoint, one of the things that back when I started in 2012, the model was still very much for a bookkeeper who wasn't part of the firm that they worked for, would be to drive out to their office, sit down at some three-legged desk that they had in a back room somewhere with an old PC, and use a desktop version of QuickBooks and literally do all the data entry, put things in, and produce financial statements for the business owner. And that was not the model I wanted to follow. It wasn't going to scale very well because I wanted to be much bigger than just whatever I could do in 40 hours a week. And you lose a lot of drive time and everything. And a lot of those bookkeepers were charging hourly for their services, which is, again, as the customer, not great, because you don't know, well, how come this month was 4 hours, but last month was 8 hours, and then the next month is 12 hours. But my business hardly changed over the last 3 months. So why the difference? So we came in and sort of said, we're going to do it differently. We're going to do it from our office, not their office. So they had to be in QuickBooks Online, or at least able to use, allow us to log in remotely. We were going to assess their needs and then offer them a flat fee. Every month it'll be the same amount. If it's a little more work or a little less work, that wouldn't impact them. And then the other thing we were going to do was we were going to have really good customer service, which, a lot of people give lip service to. But in my past, I had spent a lot of time working in restaurants. I'd owned a restaurant. So to me, customer service was a real tangible thing that I knew I could deliver on. And by having those three things, I don't have to come to your office and interrupt your workday. I don't charge you hourly, so you always know what you're going to pay. And if you call me, I'm going to call you back the same day. If you email me, I'm going to email you back the same day, and you're going to get timely financials every single month. That proposition was really enticing to these business owners. And so as a result, we picked up a lot of customers. It was things that the accounting world at that point wasn't, still by and large, customer service is like number 14 on the list of things most accounting firms think is important. So, but number one on what most business owners think is important. So we really kind of focused on the pain points that I had seen in the first 12 years of my career of business owners not getting from their accounting firms. I said, let's solve those problems, fill in that gap. And that made a huge difference in our ability to, grow and acquire customers and really change up how people thought about what they could get from an accounting firm.
Yeah, absolutely. And so obviously bookkeeping is one of the things that you mentioned. You just talked about accounting. So what else do you do for your clients?
So bookkeeping is something that a lot of people at first think of as something I have to do just so I can pay my taxes once a year, right? They don't put a lot of value in the bookkeeping itself until you can kind of educate them on, well, look, yes, you can use these books once a year just to pay your taxes, and we can help you with that tax filing as well and give you suggestions on how to save money on tax. But really, every month, these financial reports aren't just something to put in a drawer. You can take a look at them and really understand how you can improve your business. What's driving revenue? What's driving costs? What's driving profit? Can you set up some goals and metrics around these numbers and use this as a measure of how well your business is doing in areas where you can improve? And a lot of times that light bulb goes on, and nobody ever really explained what a profit and loss statement was to me before. Nobody really understood, and I never really understood what the balance sheet was telling me. So we try to provide some education as well. And for the clients that want that additional service of helping them understand how to interpret these numbers and use them to make good data-driven decisions about improving their business, that's something we also do. Not everybody cares, not everybody wants to hear it. But for those who do, I think there's a ton of value in knowing the numbers around your business.
Absolutely. And I suppose that's where our services overlap. It's that obviously for me to do my job properly as a, providing CFO services to small businesses, we need accurate numbers. So the bookkeeper needs to do their job properly. And then what you just said, what your team does and what I do is then to provide, or the bookkeeper then provides those numbers to the business owner every month. And then the CFO can help the business owner understand the numbers so they can see what's working, not working in the business. And then most importantly, what do they do next so they can keep the business healthy, improve profits and cash flow, and ultimately take more home, which is the reason that they started the business in the first place.
Right.
And
which
so,
often gets lost in the shuffle, right? You get so busy putting out the day-to-day fires, you kind of forget what you got into it and what I talked to, maybe you have the same experience, but I talked to many, many business owners who, when I asked them sort of, what are your goals? Be able to pay the bills at the end of the month and take some home. Right, what are your longer term goals? I don't know, do the same the month after.
yeah.
Well, the more you can sort of think this out, the more likely you are to actually get somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly as you said, without a plan, by definition, you're not gonna achieve it. So and yeah, exactly as you said, most of them don't know the difference between, say, a profit and loss and a balance sheet. They're things that were made for accountants by accountants. And nobody's actually told them the difference between the two. Net profit, if net profit is 100K, it doesn't mean that you've got 100K in the bank account. And very often business owners will make decisions based on how much in the bank account, which is usually a bad idea, because a lot of the time, a lot of that money is not even theirs. It's often for the tax man from the previous period, and can get them into all sorts of trouble. So definitely see the value that you're providing there, which is huge. And interesting that you raised the point about a lot of clients still being on kind of QuickBooks Desktop. Is that still the case?
No, I mean, it's definitely gone, away, not completely, but really, I mean, Intuit is pushing people off of desktop by increasing the fees and making it each year's releases not backwards compatible with prior year's releases. And now they've even implemented an annual licensing requirement. So they're really pushing people to the online model. And most people that come to us today are on QuickBooks Online versus the desktop version, but there's still a good legacy user base of people who bought a license once in 2018 and refused to upgrade or change anything. And the software still works. You have to do a lot of manual entry still, but there's still a reasonable amount of hate out in the community about the online version. Especially I hear it from the older accountants, 65, 70 years old. That online stuff's no good. Give me a good solid desktop any day. And oh, okay, well, things have moved on. Things aren't the same as they were 30 years ago. So you might want to think about changing, but that's fine. It's more opportunity for us.
Absolutely. And so for any business owner who's listening to this who doesn't know the difference between accountant, bookkeeper, and CFO, or thinks they're all the same thing, or thinks the CFO is the accountant, perhaps if you could just explain clearly what the difference between the three functions are, that would be great.
Yeah, I mean, so a bookkeeper is really the starting point, the person who takes the bank transactions, credit card transactions, and puts them into an accounting format of debits and credits. It's that sort of first pass of the raw data of financial transactions put into an accounting format. And then an accountant will often take it from there and review at a higher level. And oftentimes here in the US, we have CPAs are sort of the highest level of tax preparer. They will take that accounting data and prepare the taxes and make adjustments to the accounting that are specific to taxes rather than the actual transactions that just happen. For example, depreciation is a accounting term for the use of assets or the sort of wearing down of assets, offsetting it. That's not something a bookkeeper calculates anywhere. That's something that's comes sort of from the tax side and gets put in. And then a CFO, that function is really somebody who's sort of the translator between the business owner and the accounting side to help the business owner understand what the opportunities are that they have to increase sales, cut costs, and manage the business better. They may also help secure third-party financing, equity or debt, and other things. They're really the financial interpreter for the business owner who may be more of the visionary or the operator, and the accounting folks who are really sort of lost in the weeds in the numbers side of things.
That's a good way to explain it, and not one I'd used before. The translator between the accounting function and the business owner. Yeah, because as we said, most business owners or many business owners, they're not numbers people, and very often hearing the jargon that the accountants use can often be quite confusing. So yeah, that's good. And so, what are the main mistakes that you see business owners making that they can easily fix?
I mean, fundamentally, number one is just not having accurate bookkeeping, because without that piece, if your books aren't accurate or even in place, right, the CFO, should you decide to work with one, won't be able to give you any actionable information. And the chances are good that not only will your tax return not be done correctly, but also that you may be missing out on opportunities there to save or plan ahead or make good decisions around your tax liability. So the number one thing is sort of not understanding the value of having that done correctly in the first place, either looking at it as a cost, essentially. Well, I've got to pay this much every month for somebody to put these numbers together. I don't even know what they're doing. I never look at the numbers. To me, it's just something I pay a certain amount every month, but I don't even know why, I don't know why I pay it. So I understand that the education gap is there, but helping business owners understand that that's where the value in knowing their business numbers starts is with good bookkeeping is the first hurdle. And then once you have good numbers, there's so much more you can do with them aside from just give them to your tax preparer once a year. So that's the struggle, is kind of getting business owners to understand it as an investment in being able to run their business better, rather than simply a cost that they have to bear as a business owner, like a city tax fee or, licensed business registration fee. So I have to pay that so I can be in business, but it doesn't do me any good. If you look at bookkeeping that way, of course, you're looking for simply the cheapest option, whoever offers you the lowest price to do it, but you're really kind of missing out. So a lot of my efforts, is just around education. Here's how this can help you. Here's how this can grow your business. Here's how the fees you're spending on this can come back to you 2x, 3x, 5x if you're using it correctly. Of course, if you're not using it all at all, then yes, it's just a cost. But that's the understanding that we try to get across.
Mm-hmm. And so how have you've obviously grown your business quickly and to a good level over the last 20 years or so. How have you actually grown your business, and how did you get, obviously from the beginning up to where you are now? Given that often people, in the bookkeeping and accounting space compete on price a lot of the time.
They do. What we tend to compete on is service. And again, business owners don't necessarily, and frequently can't. I can't tell the difference between this bookkeeper and that bookkeeper, right? To me, they all just kind of do the same thing. It's not something I value much anyway, and I might as well just pick the lowest cost one. But my experience in talking to so many small business owners over the year, it's easy to identify the pain points. What's the biggest pain point with your current bookkeeper? Well, I email them and it takes them 3 weeks to get back to me. And when they get back to me, they often answer a question I didn't ask and don't actually answer the question I did ask. And it's frustrating because, when I need something from them, I can never get a hold of them. They don't respond. They're not very friendly. And when I try to talk to them, I don't really understand what they're saying a lot of times. So, well, okay, with us, here's what's different. We respond immediately. We speak sort of plain English, and we can help you understand the service you're paying us for so that you can actually utilize it and get a lot more value out of it. And they go, oh, okay, well, tell me more. And then at that point, if they can see the value, then they're no longer interested in just paying the lowest price, because they already know what they can get with that low cost provider, and they can see the value in what we're providing and are willing to pay a bit more to be able to have that interaction. By and large, what business owners want from their accounting people is straight answers and help, right? Over and over again, they'll say, if you had brought this to my attention, I could have done something about it, but no one ever told me. You just send me these reports. I don't look at them. I don't know what they mean. And I wasn't able to do anything about it because I didn't even know what, so why didn't you tell me you noticed that my cost of goods sold had gone up by 50% over the last 6 months, or, that the landlord hadn't been cashing the rent checks, and now I've got this legal issue and, all this. Why didn't you tell me? Well, I don't know. We just put the numbers in and send it. If that's what you get with the low cost provider, the sort of commodity level service. So we try to get that across to them, and some get it, some don't. You're not going to win everybody over, but again, it kind of comes back to education more than selling, just helping them understand the value.
Absolutely. And so for you to actually get in front of those clients in the first place, do you do kind of cold outreach, or is it all word of mouth?
So, what I always say, and what I tell our clients, that the number one best marketing tool you can have is to do a great job. Right? If you do a great job, word will get out. The clients you have will be happy to refer you to other clients. They'll stick with you. They'll bring you the other businesses they own they didn't mention on that first call. If you're not doing a great job, then, whatever advertising budget you have is kind of going to be wasted. You might sign them up, but if they're right out the back door, as soon as they come in the front door, they're out the back door, that effort is lost. So one, we try to do a really great job. And then we do, specifically encourage people, if they have referrals for us, if they're happy to, provide us reviews and share that. That really is still the single biggest driver of our business. But then I do things like, come on podcasts and go on YouTube videos. And we've gone to trade show events and things like that, and building our base of new clients that way. And then I feel like each new client is really worth 3 or 4 clients, because if we do a great job, then they're happy. They know of people, they'll refer us, and on we go. So we don't have to do a ton of new lead generation if we're doing a great job with everybody we bring on.
Yeah. And the more you can retain them, obviously the less the focus needs to be on filling the gaps with new business as well.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so what's your time spent doing then as the owner of the business?
Well, fortunately, I've been able to grow the team pretty well. A few years ago, I actually promoted 2 people internally to be the co-CEOs, one more on the accounting side, one more on the admin side, to take over a lot of the day-to-day kind of operational things. So I could really focus on our more strategic initiatives, building out our internal software, some more growth, functions, adding more services, building out some of our smaller sides, like our tax and advisory, are much smaller still than our bookkeeping side. So working on some of those initiatives, but also taking a good amount of time off, going on holiday and spending time with my family and things. That's kind of the long-term goal of most of the entrepreneurs and business owners I know, right? Is to not only have some financial freedom, but also have time freedom. And I am trying to sort of live the same goals that I advocate for my clients. So that's been a mix of things, of being able to delegate and hand off a lot of the management responsibilities so I could do the work on the business thing instead of in the business, but also lead from the front or as an example to clients of, this is a possibility. It's not just a pipe dream. You really can get to a place where, the business doesn't rely on you to be there every single day, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, but you can build systems in place to give you what we all talk about as wanting as goals of the combined. I want to have money, but I also want to have time, right? One without the other is not much good.
Yeah. Practicing as you preach, which is always good to hear. So Matt, for anyone who's listened to this and thought, I need to get in touch with Matt and CapForge, we'll make it very easy to do that. We'll put your links in the show notes. Any other messages that you want to share before we wrap up?
No, I mean, I think again, it comes back to understanding the value that these things can provide. If you just look at it as a cost you have to bear, then of course, great, get the lowest one you can find if you consider them to be all the same. But I can absolutely say with 100% certainty, and I'm sure you agree, they're not all the same. And there's a ton of value that can be extracted if you put the time in, and it's not much time, but time in to learn about how these things can really help you make good decisions and grow the business. So that would be my advice to anybody who's a business owner who's listening, is take the time to understand how these numbers can help you instead of just being a cost that you bear to get and then ignore. And you will see a significant improvement in your business in short order.
Yeah, I completely agree. Business owners need to have accurate numbers to review, and to do that, you need to have a good bookkeeper. And without the numbers to review, then you're essentially driving blind and doing what a lot of business owners do, which is to make decisions based on how much money is in the bank account, which is also risky, very risky.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Pleasure to have you on, Matt, and good luck with the business over the next few years.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yes. Thanks for listening. As I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, this podcast was created to celebrate the success stories of 7-figure business owners, giving them a platform to share their insights and lessons learned in order to inspire other business owners. As well as that, it's an opportunity to build new connections. So if you're a 7-figure business owner or someone who works with 7-figure business owners and you're looking for introductions to potential stakeholders, strategic partners, and clients, I'd love to hear from you or have you on as a guest and see if I can help make those connections for you. Just go to synergycfosolutions.co. That's synergycfosolutions.co and click podcast. On that page, you'll find the link to apply.